I've heard you talk a little bit too, like throughout your journey, like the importance of kind of owning your divine masculinity and getting into that energy, which I think is really fascinating, because right now, I feel like there's always ebbs and flows throughout life, and we've been in this very masculine energy of existence, and now we're shifting to kind of like a hyper feminine version, because things always had like these massive swings and then they settle in the middle, or at least hopefully they do. So right now, because we're in this more of a feminine surge, I feel like men are being kind of told to just sit back and not engage in that divine masculinity or the healthy masculinity, which I think is just masculinity. I think that we lump it all into toxic, and I'm like, well, that's actually not masculinity. That's actually, someone that has their own insecurities and they haven't figured out how to channel that. So I guess what got you to, see like the importance of cultivating that?
Yeah. Well, in the process of shedding my belief systems, the frameworks of accumulation, wealth, power, I had to find a different way of life. And that's when I opened my mind to new ideas and started looking at what it is to be a man, and came across masculine, feminine frameworks and started to explore it, and recognizing that there's an energy flow of both polarities, both genders, both sexes, and we have both within us. And this is what I believe now, at least. Mm-hmm. We have both masculine and feminine in us, and then within each pole, you have the light expression or the dark expression of that, and so there's different layers that you can tap into. And as we develop, as we evolve, we start to grow this awareness, not only in the mind, but also in the body. And you start to be able to navigate or express yourself in different ways. And for so long, I was, to your point, raised by a feminist from a female perspective that didn't trust men, because my mom's father left her. She never had any positive male role models in her life. My father then left me and her, so she didn't trust that. And also, on some level, because she didn't trust, she chose a man that wouldn't stay. And then she taught me that she could be both father and mother to me, and that I started to now internalize her relationship to men and became, in many ways, emasculated and feminized. And I wasn't in touch with my masculine. And yet I'm a man. I got testosterone coursing through my body, and I'm growing up, and I'm seeking, on some level, some deep level, I'm seeking an expression of that masculine. And my father was gone. Again, this pattern's now being cycled. I didn't have any role models that could teach me how to be a divine masculine expression. So I ended up finding, because it's everywhere in the world, outside in the world, these negative expressions of masculinity: fame, fortune, dominance, ego, all of those things. And it satisfied a part of me on some level, but it was destructive. So I had to relearn what it means to be a man by, in many ways, unlearning what my mom taught me was to be a woman. So I feel like right now, culturally, en masse, we are relearning both of those roles and how best to show up for each other as men, as a divine expression of masculinity, and also women. And to me, when you look at toxic, patriarchy, mm-hmm. It's not just men making bad choices or being destructive. It's also how women show up as well. We need to do it in concert together.
Absolutely.
As like a mutual collaboration, a co-creation.
Right, we're not enemies.
We're not enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens is a lot of times, like even I saw my mom having to rise to the occasion to be that masculine force for survival so she could take care of me. And it became a toxic expression of masculinity through a woman. Right. So not only do we have a toxic masculine culture, but we also have women who are also participating in that as well.
More now than ever.
Right.
There's this comedian, I think it was Tim Dillon, and he's like, toxic masculinity isn't dead and it's not going anywhere. It just exists in women now. And there's some truth to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I really resonate with that, but on like the opposite end. So my dad left when I was relatively young as well. My mom was a single mom.
But by the way, who here, everybody out there, I'm sure, what is it like,
It's very few.
There's like 20% of people have, mother and father in the home.
Which is the root cause of a lot of what we see
When
now.
you're 30, it's low.
Yeah.
Right, sorry, go ahead.
No, but yeah, it's kind of like the mirror image of your version. So my dad left really early as well. My mom was a single mom of 3, and for very similar reasons, always kind of unintentional or maybe unconsciously, subconsciously picked the wrong men.
Yeah.
Right. Abandonment issues, that kind of thing, and then.
Trauma attracts trauma.
Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's each other's comfort zone, and we can exist in this space together because this is predictable. The chaos is predictable.
Yeah.
So she ended up having that unhealthy expression of feminine energy, which ends up being toxic masculinity, which then I pick up and model because that's all little humans are, is they're just modeling the behavior that they see.
Absolutely.
So me losing touch with my feminine side and becoming very harsh and domineering and disagreeable, which there were times where that was helpful, but from like a large scale, when you're in a marriage, right, that's problematic. So it's like, well, how do I guess engage with that feminine energy again so he can be masculine? Because you can't have both people in a relationship fighting for that masculine role.
Yeah.
It's not gonna turn out well, and that's not gonna be a marriage that lasts. So it's being comfortable with surrendering, because that's a lot of what a woman is like being soft and open. And that was hard for me, because I'm like, well, if I'm those things, then who's going to protect me, right? Like, it's not having that trust for my husband to take on that protective role, because traditionally that's been my role, or that's been my mom's role. And I'm like, well, a guy's never done that. So it's unlearning what seems like a truth for you now for a truth that's better and serves you well.
Yeah. 100%. And also recognizing that you're making a choice to use certain frameworks to model your life, right? So this may be Chinese to some people. They may not understand the masculine but it seems that we've done a fair amount of research, reading up on and meditating on these ideas, and they work for me in this moment. And my partner, she also agrees with this, and it helps us navigate the world, because we get to put that that frame onto the world, and then start to build based on those truths, and those truths can change. I think we are malleable and we do evolve, but for right now I think these are lessons. It can be controversial too. Don't tell me I can't be this or I can't do that. And it's like, no, yeah, you can, but just like working here on the land with the earth, you can come in and try and impose your will on nature. And if you build in a floodplain, you're going to get your ass handed to you. And you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But just know that there are natural flows, natural, energies that work in certain ways. And if you're working in opposition to it, it may not work out as well. Go ahead and do it. But if you work in flow, if you work along with it, it might work out better for you. But, hey, don't take my word for it.
No, I totally agree, because sometimes they think it's kind of going backwards, and it's like, oh, well, women are supposed to be just barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. It's not what anyone's saying, but it is saying like you can actually only make a certain amount of decisions a day. Like you actually will have burnout. So I forget what that number is. But after that, you cannot make decisions successfully throughout the rest of the day. So part of that is just cognitive load, right? If I know that my duties in this relationship in the household are X and yours are Y, that's one less decision that I have to make. There was this video I saw, and this husband was a farmer, And he just got done like bringing in all these logs, and he's like, honey, where's my coffee? And everyone's like, how dare you ask her for the coffee? You're a misogynist. She's allowed to, or you can make your own coffee. You're able-bodied man.
She can load her own wood.
He did that. The next day he comes and he's like, listen, I'm a feminist and I'm modern, so I'm gonna go inside and make my coffee. He's like, honey, go get the logs.
Don't get no damn logs.
I'm like, well, come on, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and you know, what are you predisposed to do? Like, what do you want? I mean, I love going to bring in logs.
I don't.
There you
I'll
go.
make the coffee. Right.
Exactly. So, you know, it's not, I think people are like working against the grain right now. Like, if you take the time to humble yourself and listen to what your body is, what you need, you know, and you clear all the traumas that are trying to, you know, impose themselves on you, all the patterning that isn't really you, that's in rebellion or in opposition to. I feel a great amount of, you know, sadness or compassion for my mother, who felt like she had to be the man and went out and worked her ass off and never had time to be the mom she wanted to be and to be the woman she wanted to be. Didn't have a man to protect her enough so that she could have that full expression of her femininity. And, you know, she's a happy, amazing woman, but I do see that there was something that she was craving in her life. And my heart breaks for her. Like, I wish that she could have had more of that, you know, ability to just be carefree in her feminine and not have to be, you know, the breadwinner.